Well, here we go. So I have brought us to the Sublime Text webpage. I have not installed Sublime on this computer because I wanted to walk you through everything that it takes to install um, Sublime. So I'm on the Sublime webpage here. I'm on sublimetext.com/3. So we're going to be using Sublime 3. It looks like there's 1, 2, and 2 are also available. Please work with Sublime 3. So I've gone here and I've already clicked OS X, which is for my Mac. Obviously, there's different versions. If you have a modern Windows machine, it's going to be Windows 64. If you don't know how to check what type of Windows system you have, you might want to look at your control panel or just Google it. There's some good instructions out there. So I've launched the I've downloaded the DMG here, and so this is opening. And the first thing I'm going to do is obviously is install it. Is just drag it in, and it's in there. And let's see here. Come over to Applications, and we go Sublime. There it is, and we're going to launch it. So again, this is very first launch here of Sublime, and it comes up on my outside my window here. So I've got a text window. There's not a whole lot here to go on, right? It's a text document. It's a text editor. But really the power here is to be able to set up a project. And so what I'm going to do first is install the sftp plugin. And it's going to allow us to connect with our server, have a project where we can keep things synced and everything is good. So what I'm going to do is I have to enable packages. So what I'm going to do is just go to help and type in package. So install package control is what you want here. So I'm going to click on that, and package control was installed. Use the command palette to type install package and get started. Okay, great. So if I go to tools, command palette, there it is. Install package. So there it is. So it's going to give me a list now of packages that are available for this this build and this install, and I'm going to type in sftp. And so what I've done is installed sftp, I believe. Thank you for installing. Now this is a paid plugin. It's Nagware, so you're going to install it and it's going to bug you, but it will not stop you from doing your job. So it's important to read this this README here. What you really want to do is we're going to go with workflow here. Number 1, we're going to map a local folder to a remote folder. And so what will happen is that you'll have your folder here on the server. I'm sorry, on your local machine, and you'll match that up with the server folder that is the same kind of the same place. And we talked about this quite a bit. It's about keeping your two folders synced on the server and on your local machine. Lucky for this, I haven't done any development for my ITCD land on this machine. So what we can do is we can go ahead and set a folder up, and then we'll sync and download the entire folder off of the server. Hopefully then we'll be in a good place to start. You might want to do this. You might want to define a new folder instead of trying to sync it with your existing folder. I had some problems with that earlier, getting it exactly right. This way you know that if you're pulling it down from the server, you know that it's going to be in sync. All right, so what we're going to do here is to start, we're going to open a folder. And so I'm going to say open. And what's interesting here, and I'm going to go to my documents, and I'm going to make a new folder. So let's see here. Is it going to let me make a new folder? It is not. So that's fine. I'll just cancel that, and I'll hop over to my documents and make a folder. So I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call this MySpace -CSUMB. And you can call it whatever you want. Again, remember when we first set up the the FileZilla, we didn't use CST251 for this folder. We actually want that folder to be inside this, and I think we're gonna. My instinct is that we're gonna do the same thing here. So my work or my space or whatever you want to call it, but just make an empty folder here in your documents. That's a good starting place. Okay, so now let's go ahead and open a folder. And we're going to go to my documents. We're going to go to the folder I just created and open it. Now it keeps opening up off screen, so I'll drag this in. What I've got here is a now my empty folder. There's nothing there, and it's really essentially a project. And I can actually save this as a project, and I'm going to call this CST251. And it says, well, where are you going to save it? And I'm going to go ahead and save it in my documents as well. Save it there. Okay, so I've saved this project, but I've got this link here. So I'm going to right click on this, and you notice now that I've installed SFTP, I've got this feature here that I can that has SFTP. This wasn't here before. It wouldn't have been here until I installed the SFTP plugin. All right, map to remote. Okay, so type. These are the big, the big things that you got to have to connect, right? Protocol, or how we're connecting. There are some features here we'll cover here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and type in myspace.chumb.edu. Notice I don't put SFTP, I don't put HTTP. There's nothing there ahead of it. Okay, username. It's my username. And my password is right here. I can uncomment this. So you see these two slashes. That means that it's a comment. Notice the port is grayed out, that it's port 22, but it's grayed out and it's a comment. That essentially means that there's a default there. What would probably happen if I were to leave this commented like this, it's going to ask for my password every time. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and let's see if I can hop over to my password. We're going to see if I can be smart enough to do it off screen. And let's see here. So I'm going to make a new, in here, I'm going to make a new window. I'm going to go to my Gmail. I'll drag this off. Looks like, so I'm dragging this off screen so you can't see it. Found my password. And I'm going to come back here to Sublime. Now what I'm going to do is again, you're not going to be able to see this because I'm going to move it off screen to do this, but I've got my host, I've got my username, I've got my password. I'm going to paste in here in 2 seconds. I've got my protocol, and the last thing here is remote path. And so it's asking me to type in the remote path that will, it's kind of our starting point. It's our web root, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a slash here, and I'm going to type in home, and then on my username. And that's where I'm going to start. You might get more sophisticated, actually with a trailing slash. You might get more sophisticated and type in public_HTML. Play around with it. I'm going to start right now by just typing that. So okay, bear with me. I'm going to drag this off the screen, and I'm going to paste my password in, and I'm going to save this and close it. And so I saved it and closed it, and look where it saved it. It saved it inside my folder that I'm mapping. So it sets up my server configuration for this project. So that's great. And so what I'm going to do now is I can right click on this, and I get some more options now that I've mapped this to the remote folder, the remote server. And I can say, look, sync with remote down to local, browse remote. I'm going to sync remote. And so this should go and get everything that's in my home folder on the server. And we'll see what we get here. Say perform the operation. So actually, if I give this little window a tug here and open this up a little bit, wasn't happy that I did that. I was waiting for a response. Oh, I see. Wrong window. So it was waiting for me to do something. So I'm going to drag this out, make it a little larger. I'm going to try this one more time here. So remote down to local. And it runs through this and it gives me this whole list of things that it's going to do. So it says, do you want to do this? So if I roll through this, it tells me that it's going to go and get the public HTML folder and everything inside that. Of course, again, I can use my starting point, my web root, as my public HTML. Doesn't really matter because I'm starting out fresh here. I've got an empty folder. But if you're syncing here, this is where it can be very dangerous because you can overwrite folders on a local machine. So again, this is why I'm saying start with a blank slate on your folder. I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to say no. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to edit this document. And well, I just showed my password there, so we're going to have to work that out later. I'll cover that up in Premiere. Good try, Jeff. So my web root, I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, now we're going to start in public underscore HTML slash CST 251. So remember, every slash is a folder. This is my starting folder. But that little test that I just did told me where I was. I could see from those pathways that it was in the right, I was in the right neighborhood. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to say sync remote. It says you're sure you want to. So it's telling me that I've got an images folder, I've got a projects folder. So this is everything that's inside my CST 251 folder. So you can see that we're connecting to the CST 251. Yeah, I'm not too thrilled with that. So we're going to go back one more time since I've already had to cover it up. I'm going to delete this, and we're just going to do public HTML, and we're going to close this. Save it here, boom, sync remote. Okay, gives me everything, all the extra stuff that you guys won't have, but projects and things that I've been working on in my CST folder. I'm gonna say yes. It's gonna go get it, and here we go. Now we're syncing. While this is syncing, oh, it's very quick. Wow. So it went ahead and brought it all down. I'm gonna actually go back to this one more time. This is the third time I got to cover up my password, and let's go through some of these preferences here. So save before upload, obviously they're all very self-explanatory. Upload on save, so I can set this to true, and so every time I work on a file here locally and save it, it'll automatically push it. It's not a bad idea. It's whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to absolutely make sure, then you can push it up, but you can just manually upload each one as you go. Sync down on open. So there's all of these options here. So this is a way, confirm overwrite newer. I'd like to keep that, so I'm going to set that to true. Confirm sync, confirm download. So there's all of this, these little preferences here that are kind of helpful. And so again, I'm going to close this. I'm going to save it, and I can do things like I can now right click on this file and I can say, look, why don't you sync both directions, and it'll say perform it. And actually, what do you want to do? It says, do you want to upload this file is newer over time on the server is older. It looks like local file is newer. So I'm going to say yes. And so I don't know why that's newer. I just downloaded that. So that's an interesting problem there, that sync may not work for newer or older files. Okay, so we have a synced file, and you can just literally go in here, and again, you can come in every time and just right click on it, and you can sync. You can sync local to the remote, and it's going to say 3 days newer, 2 weeks newer. This is all really interesting that it's telling me these files don't match, but I'm going for it anyway, so yes. And then it goes ahead and pushes it up to the server. The window goes away when you're done, and you can keep working. Same thing here. So here's my index file, and I can make a change here and say that web coding is things that I like to do that are fun. I don't believe, let's see here, it looks like I can right click on it and I can push to from local to remote. And I don't know if it did it or not. That's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to close this. I'm just going to go ahead and sync local to remote. It says, do you want to do it? Perform the following. Upload local over remote. Yes. Boom. So now I've updated my local file to reflect that I like web coding, and I've pushed it to the server. Okay, well, I'm going to stop there. I got to go back now to Premiere and spit these videos out and cover up my passwords. And hopefully you found this helpful. Thanks.